I am Monica, and I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to share what happened to me. I moved into this rental home a few months ago, and since then, my life has turned into a nightmare. It's about my landlord, Jack, and the terrifying events that followed. I swear this is all true, and it still haunts me every day. It all started when I was looking for a place to stay. I found this cozy little house on a quiet street, and it seemed perfect. The rent was affordable, and the neighborhood was nice. When I went to see the place, Jack, the landlord, was there to show me around. He was an older man, probably in his late 50s, with a gruff demeanor and piercing blue eyes that seemed to watch my every move. At first, Jack seemed friendly enough. He gave me a tour of the house and told me about the area. I noticed he was a bit too friendly, standing a little too close and touching my arm every now and then. It made me uncomfortable, but I figured he was just being nice. Desperate to find a place, I ignored the red flags and signed the lease. The first few weeks were uneventful. I settled into my new home, enjoying the peace and quiet. But soon, things started to change. Jack would show up unannounced, claiming he needed to check on something or fix a problem I hadn't even noticed. He always found an excuse to come inside, and his presence made my skin crawl. One evening, I was watching TV when I heard a noise outside. I looked out the window and saw Jack standing in my yard, staring at the house. He didn't move, just stood there, watching. My heart started to race, and I felt a knot of fear in my stomach. I wanted to confront him, but something told me it wasn't a good idea. Instead, I locked all the doors and windows and tried to ignore him. The next day, I confronted Jack about it. He laughed it off, saying he was just making sure everything was okay. I didn't believe him, but I didn't want to cause any trouble, so I let it go. That was a mistake. The visits became more frequent, and Jack's behavior grew more disturbing. He would make inappropriate comments, like telling me how pretty I looked or how he liked the way I dressed. I started to feel like a prisoner in my own home, constantly on edge, waiting for the next time Jack would show up. One night, I was in bed when I heard footsteps outside my window. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The footsteps stopped, and I heard a soft tapping on the glass. I gathered my courage and looked out the window. There was Jack, standing in the darkness, his face inches from the glass. His eyes were wide, and he had a twisted smile on his face. I screamed and backed away, grabbing my phone to call the police. When they arrived, Jack was gone. I told them what happened, but they didn't seem to take me seriously. They said they'd talk to Jack, but I could tell they thought I was overreacting. The next day, Jack confronted me. He was furious, saying I was making things up and trying to get him in trouble. I was terrified, but I stood my ground, telling him to stay away from me. He stormed off, but I knew it wasn't over. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing noises, like someone was moving around outside. I stayed in bed, clutching my phone, too scared to move. Around 2 a.m., I heard my front door creak open. My blood ran cold, and I knew Jack had somehow gotten inside. I crept out of bed, trying to be as quiet as possible. I grabbed a kitchen knife and hid in the closet, praying he wouldn't find me. I heard his footsteps getting closer, his breathing heavy. He called out my name, his voice dripping with malice. "Monica, where are you? Come out and play." I held my breath, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. The footsteps stopped right outside the closet door. I braced myself, ready to defend myself if he opened it. But then, something strange happened. I heard another set of footsteps, lighter, almost like a child's. Jack's voice changed from confident to confused. "Who's there?" There was no answer, just the sound of the light footsteps moving around the house. Jack sounded more and more agitated, his voice shaking with fear. "Show yourself." Suddenly, there was a loud crash and Jack screamed. I stayed hidden, too scared to move. The house was filled with eerie silence, and then I heard Jack running, his footsteps fading away. I waited for what felt like hours before I finally came out of the closet. The house was empty, but I could still feel a presence, like someone was watching me. I found Jack's keys on the floor, along with a trail of muddy footprints leading to the front door. The next morning, I called the police again and told them everything. They found Jack's body a few blocks away, in an alley. He was dead, his face twisted in terror. They couldn't explain what happened, and I didn't have any answers for them. I moved out of that house as fast as I could. I don't know what I encountered that night, but I'm sure it wasn't just Jack. Something else was in that house, something that protected me when I needed it most. I still have nightmares about that night, and I can't shake the feeling that whatever it was is still watching over me. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation where your landlord is acting strange, trust your instincts and get out. You never know what kind of darkness you might be dealing with